Hello there, and thank you so much for joining us today on yet another episode of Transforming Families. My name is Faith Kaulu, and I'm excited that you are able to join us. If you're watching us from our social media platforms, Facebook and YouTube, which is CAC TV Kenya, share this link with friends and family so that they're able as well to, get the wisdom from this discussion today. And with me is Reverend Edward Karanja, who is a minister with the Presbyterian Church of East Africa, as well as a marriage and family therapist. Thank you so much, Rev, for always being part of Transforming Families.
Thank you very much, family, Faith, for having me in this program of Transforming Families.
Sure.
And like we have always said, here in Transforming Families, stable families for a stable society.
Yeah.
Welcome on board.
Wow. And at the very end is Professor Catherine Gashuda, who is a counseling psychologist, as well as the director of the Kenya Institute of Business and Counseling Studies. Prof, we appreciate you as well. Thank you so much.
Always happy to be here. And like we always say, families is work.
Yeah.
And it's worthy work.
It's worthy work at the end of the day. Today we are talking about, when to have the sex talk with your child and how to answer those difficult questions that children are now asking. And as a parent, you want to avoid them. So I want to see, is it really healthy to avoid those questions, or are they going to learn about sex somewhere else? And well, let's start by looking at what is the right age, or is there even a specific certain age where you would say this is the right time for me to have the sex talk with my child? Who would like to go first?
Right. First and foremost, I really want to appreciate this topic because many a times parents don't know how to do it. They don't know when. They don't know how. They don't know what about sexuality and sex.
Yeah.
Because we are not only concentrating with sex, which is coitus, we are talking about sexuality. And being a sexual person, children need to understand who they are from the time they are very small, even when they are small babies. You need to help the child, and the child does not have to understand through words. The child will understand even through touch, that as a parent you are communicating a message about their own sexuality. So I would want to say from the time that they are infants, because when they are infants you are touching them, and children need to feel that they are touched appropriately even when they are small, and even when they start knowing themselves that they can take themselves to the toilet or they are urinating. Even at that time, they need to understand what they are doing and their organs and how they need to respond to others that are different from them. If it is a boy, how does he understand a girl who is having a different kind of a sexual organ or genitalia from the one that he has? So I would say from the word go, when a child is born, we are communicating something about sexuality and sex.
Wow. I had not even seen it that way, that from the moment a child is born, the way you touch them, the way you interact with them, you are already communicating. Even before they get to the age where they can start asking questions, there are certain things that they've already learned from your interaction with them. And I think for me that's quite a revelation, Prof. And when you're saying, from the moment they're an infant, and you've talked about potty training, and maybe when you're bathing the child, then that makes me want to ask, when a baby is a baby, when they're young, should you tell them this is your doo-doo, or should you use the proper name, and tell them if this is a penis, then this is your penis, or say no, this is your doo-doo, no one should touch it? Should you, at that age, when they are young, should you introduce the official name?
For parents, they need to be very blunt. But again, when we are talking about training and teaching children about their own sexuality and about sex, let me use the acronym SPEAK. And S means security. The children would want to hear this within a secure environment. Because you're talking about their own privacy, then they need to feel a sense of security.
Okay.
And P means progressive exposure. What you're telling a child who is 2 years is not what you're telling a 7-year-old, and it's not what you're telling an adolescent. You are telling them different things, maybe the same content, but at a different build-up.
Okay.
So it is progressive exposure. And E means explain, continue explaining, provide, expound on what the child is asking. Because just like you have said, children are very honest and very blunt. They are asking a direct question. Why is my body organ very different from my sister's body organ?
Yeah.
So they are asking that, and they don't need euphemisms. They don't need us to use terms that are used to get us away from the shame that we experience. And then there is A, ask. As a parent, when a child is asking, what is this I am carrying? Then as a parent, you can ask, what makes you ask that? You need to understand that curiosity of a child. So you ask, and after you ask, you clarify. Clarify so that the child can understand much more. And K, we need to be very keen and very simple. Keep it simple. Don't make it complicated.
Okay.
Children are not needing theories, they are not needing vocabularies, they're just needing the simple information. That's a vagina and that is a penis. Yes.
That's it.
I like that.
Yeah, I really love that. You know, Prof. You put it as it is, and I love the way you have explained it. And you know, many times we tend to agree, of course, because on this program, many of the things that we discuss are counseling, psychological aspects, and they are facts about life. So, and when they are facts about life, it is the way it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's science.
It is science. It's a fact about life. It's science. So if 1 + 1 is 2, it's 2.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why. And where you don't, it's okay. And one of the things that I will need to explain to us is that children are very, very crucial in life. In that, the children that we are caring for, James Dobson says, bring up children is like baking a cake. That's what James Dobson says. That, you know, when you are rearing children, it is like baking a cake. You do not realize that you have made a mistake until it is too late. So that's what Dobson says.
Oh, yeah.
Like childbearing, rearing, is like baking a cake. You do not realize you have made mistakes until it's too late. So when it comes to sex education to a child, it's like baking a cake. If you do not explain it as early as possible, by the time you discover you made a mistake, it's too late. Because when you're baking a cake, you don't changanya mayai vizuri, the ingredients are not in good order, you put it in the oven, by the time ugua juu, umeitoa unadhani imeiva, unakata ndani unakuta mayai imekuangalia.
Not cooked.
Not cooked. It's already too late. You're going to waste the entire thing. And many of us parents and those watching and all of us here because we're parents, it is good to realize that the child is very tender. It's like a cake. You go to mix the ingredients correctly. Like Prof has said, you got to be very careful with this cake as you start from the word go. What information am I giving the child? Can the child handle this information? The child is simple when they are coming up, when they are growing up. So when you tell them that this is a penis, it is you and I that will shy out about it. But the child at the age of, like, say, around about the age of 4 or 5, the child won't shy out away from it because they do not know what it's called.
Yeah.
They will grow up knowing, as you have said. Tell the girl, this is the vagina, nobody should be able to touch. I know many parents have used the words, you are doo-doo, you are cuckoo, you are all that.
Yeah.
No one should be able to touch your cuckoo, don't allow anyone. Tell them, do not let anyone touch this organ because of 1, 2, 3. And then observe the children as they grow. However, the information you release to a 5-year-old is not the information you release to a 10-year-old. That's why you need to be very careful, on the information you are releasing. And of course, as a parent, create time to advise the child. Because most of the challenges we are having is that we are letting the child, the sex education or sexuality education, be carried out by only the teachers, while the parents will let the teachers do it. There is a place of the parent in the family. Like we have said here before, from 0 to 12 years, the child develops trust with the person around them. So if the parent is the one who is around, the child will create trust with that. St. Augustine said, give me a child from 0 to 12 years. Take it away, it will come back to you. Because it is the stage of internalization. The child internalizes the values of the people around them. So which kind of values does a parent want a child to internalize? So in matters of sex education, do you want your child to first learn from an outsider, or do you want them to first learn from you? So it's important that the child learns it from the parent, from the word go.
Yeah.
So before the word tells them, I would say, as a parent, as long as the child is can comprehend and understand a few things, start teaching them these things. Why do we teach the children the importance of brushing the teeth? Brushing the teeth and sexuality, which is more crucial?
Yeah.
And you want to teach the child how to hold a pen, how to write, so that they can pass exams. If they fail in the exam of sexuality, and even if they pass in the other exam, their life will still be in a challenge. There's something that someone sent to me on WhatsApp message about a parent with a son and a daughter, and how they were away, and both of them are medical doctors. It's in the public domain, that information.
Yeah.
They were both public, doctors. And then they had a house girl, and they were busy working and making money for them. They had a house help. Then a nanny. Then they brought in an uncle, the brother to the husband. The brother. This is an uncle to the children to be staying with them, so that he can also provide some father figure to the boy as he is growing up, and the nanny is here because they had a boy and a girl.
Yeah.
And then he was also in college, so he was doing college while in their house.
Okay.
Only the parents later, before they knew it, the two kids were into, in the nanny and the uncle were engaging sexually. And so the child asked the father one day a question, and the mother asked the father and the mother, when you guys lock in your bedroom, do you kiss? And then the parents are like, where have the children learned this behavior?
Yeah.
And so they went to school. They thought it is the school, and they told the school about it. At the end of the term, they withdrew the children from that school because they thought the school was not teaching them right, to another school. So one day, to cut the long story short, one day, that story in the public domain, then the mother comes home, whatever reason she had the education she needed, and she came home a little bit earlier, around 4 or 5. Children were out of school. And so she thought, it's a surprise. So she drives home slowly, quietly, comes over the door, so the surprise, they're home. She got surprised herself. And they had, cut off the TV to the kids, said, no TV, they should not be watching, and said, don't watch TV. So she comes into the house, the shock on it, and let me just hear this. She found the nanny and the uncle to the babies stuck naked on the couch, and the children stuck naked, the brother and the sister, and watching a porno. The porno they were watching, they were all trying to practice it.
What?
On the couches. She got a shocker, of course, as any African mother. She was all over kicking and hitting everybody that she could come her way along the way, and kicked out the uncle, kicked out the auntie. The damage that had been done, she is now 74. That lady, the one who has written this, she's now about 74. 24, something like that. She kicked them out and all that. She says, finally they tried to help the kid. The behavior could not. The brother and the sister kept on engaging sexually. They tried to separate them. They could not. It went on. They secured 2 abortions for the daughter. Then the daughter passed on. In the 3rd abortion she died. The brother got into depression. Could never forgive the parents for killing the sister. So finally, him also died. The husband could not forgive himself. He died of depression. So the lady is the one who left to give the story. She has now given the story of how bad it was. And those days when they were growing up, both of them, the medical profession was the profession. So both of them being medical doctors, they were looked at by the village, the town, as the people, the real persons. But right now, she's all alone, not a single child, no husband. She's alone.
That's such a heavy and sad story.
Very sad story, and this is sharing it, but it was such a lesson to me when I read it. So that I'm saying, before anyone else teaches your child on sexuality, I think the parent should be the first one to do it from the word go. Baby steps, take slow steps. Be careful how you do it. And because you'll do it with a lot of love as a parent, so that by the time the child hits 12, they have already built the trust with the parents, so that even when you tell them this is wrong or right, they already have understood from your perspective.
Yeah.
Yes.
And from that story, it reminded me of what Prof has shared with us about the speak,
yes.
Where you ask the child.
Yes.
See, then if the parents had asked, why are you asking this? Did you see anyone kissing? Maybe they would have shared with them at that point. And also, it also makes me think about then parents who are shy to speak to their kids about such matters, because we are of different personalities. Yes, a child can come and ask you something and you're shy to speak about it. Then at that point, you want to help your child. Of course, you don't want them to learn from somewhere else, but you're not courageous enough to speak about this. How do you handle that situation?
Yeah, and what you have mentioned about Prof, ask.
Ask, yeah.
That's where we go wrong most of the time. Even in this story, to me, I say that the parents heard what the child was saying, but not listen. There's a child difference between hearing and listening. They did not listen, because if the mother had listened, they would have understood there is a bigger problem than this.
Yeah.
But because she just heard, she went into giving a solution, and the solution was cut off the TV, change the child the school they're in. So thank you for bringing up that again, Faith. Asking, because the moment you ask and you probe, you will not get more information from the child, and from the information the child has, you will use that information to help the baby. Because now you're coming from an informed position, you'll be like, what does the child know?
Yeah.
So from what they know, if it's the wrong information they know, you'll try now to correct the information. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am still in the story that Reverend has given, and the damage that inability to handle sexuality and sex, how it harmed a whole family.
Yeah.
And so we can see the reason as to why we have to talk about this. And you have brought in a very important scenario where a parent is not able to explain. And we may want to ask ourselves, what is making mommy or daddy not be able to explain issues to do with sex? One, because they are coming from a culture, or they are coming from experiences where they have been told, hiyo ni tabia baya, usiongee. And therefore, even explaining to their own children becomes very difficult, because you are a captive of your own culture. And the orientation that you're given, hiyo ni kitu baya, usiongee juu yake. That is where you are still stuck. You know, when the Bible says, my people perish because of lack of knowledge, we can be able to see that ignorance here is playing a very major role. If the mother that Leverett has talked about knew different, and you see, this is a very intelligent individual, is a medical doctor.
Yeah.
So in terms of IQ, that lady had it. And the husband did too. But when it comes to lives, knowledge, and experience, they lacked in that. When it comes to parenting, they lacked in that. That is why we would want to tell you, parents and caregivers, that if you do not know, seek knowledge. We are having a lot of programs on effective parenting or functional parenting, or however a program can be called, but it is on parenting, so that you can update your information and knowledge and skills regarding sexuality and sex, how to address sexual matters to your own children. Now, if you're feeling like ashamed of sexuality, then you have to deal with it as a parent. You have to address yourself so that you can accept your own sexuality and accept sex for what it is, as a natural experience that God wanted us to have. Because in the book of Genesis, the Bible says he made them male and female. That means that God was intentional in terms of our own sexuality, being male and being female. So I would want to say that we need an orientation where we can accept our own sexuality, we as sexual beings, we can accept ourselves as that, so that we can step into the space of telling another, you are a sexual being and you have a sexuality that needs to be taken care of. And these are the boundaries. And this is the knowledge for you to have a healthy sexual life.
Wow.
And further to that, what has been said, there is nothing as important as the child from the word go. And that said, you teach the child to read, to write, to talk, to eat, hygiene. I don't know why it is easier to teach the child table manners, how to eat, how to arrange the plates, how to spread your bed. And you want your child to know how to spread the bed, brush the shoes, brush your teeth, vaa uniform ya shule, vaa tai vizuri. I don't know why those things are more important than sexuality. And then sexuality becomes tabia mbaya. Like you mentioned. Yet, it is as a result of sexual intercourse that the child is alive.
Yeah.
The reason why that baby was born, it is because that took place.
Yeah.
So it is a very important stage or aspect in the life of a child. Teaching a baby, like the Reverend Prof has said, that
a good title.
It's a good title.
Hallelujah.
Amen. We are going to say your capacity. You know, like Prof has said, accepting I am a girl. What makes me a girl? It is because I have these organs, I have these physical features. That's why you are a girl. Loving yourself as you are. And aside, therefore, these organs, these parts of your body, you should not allow them to be touched by a boy because of 1, 2, 3. Teaching the boy from the word go, you are a boy, and this is what makes a boy. And that's why your physique is like this. A boy waking up in the morning, and allow me to say this on public TV, and has an erection, small boy, teaching the child what that means is very important. So that the child does not think either they are sick or something has gone wrong. Let them get to know it. Teaching the girl, by the time you approach this age, from some of them even from the age 8 or 9, 10, these are some of the changes you would expect in your body. So the child doesn't think they're sick. The enough girls, especially probably at our age, with Prof, in school that, girls who got embarrassed because we're in a classroom, and then things happen, and the girl has gotten into her, woman way, and she was so embarrassed, and people came laughing around her, running away from her, I even remember how I got introduced into ladies being now mature and getting to that age, was as a typical village boy demonizing the girls who had gotten into that stage, because everybody else was demonizing them around there and saying what has happened to them.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to teach sexuality, so that one accepts themselves, that even as a girl, when I get to this way, I shouldn't be embarrassed. I should walk shoulder high, knowing that I am a total woman. The reason as to why I am having this is because I'm a full woman. The reason as to why, as a young man, even I have wet dreams, is because I'm a real man. Not thinking, oh, I have wet my bed, and this has happened. So the sexuality should begin early. And as the child approaches a preteen, the 10, 12 years, especially between 10 and 12, it should now be a little bit more intense. The moment they hit teenage life, more intense. By the time now they are going like into the mid teenagers, like they are in 17, 18, now they will even teach them more about the responsibility, the outcome. In case you misbehave, these are the repercussions. You can easily become a father. You can easily become a mother. So you now let them know the consequences. Thank you.
Progressively.
Yeah. Yes, progressively. Yes. Yeah, we used the word progressively.
Yes, she
Yes,
did.
progressively.
Yeah, there's something you mentioned about kids, and how it's through sexual intercourse that they're there, and you are there even as a parent.
Yes.
And it's made me think of a lot of kids get to ask these questions, especially if they're firstborns or when the parent is expectant, and they can say, oh, mommy, you're expecting a child. How did that happen? I think that's where it starts. And parents say, we'll go and get the child in the supermarket or in the hospital, but they don't quite explain. And I was reading a certain book which was saying how, just as you mentioned, Prof, that even as young as they are still sexual beings, because it was saying how you'd find kids either play with their belly button or touch their genitalia. They don't know what they're doing, but they find pleasure in that. So for them, it feels nice. They don't know why and how. They can't explain, but they're doing that because it gives them pleasure. And as a parent, you need to be aware that, your kid is already a sexual being, so be open with them. When they ask this question, answer them. Anyway, we're taking a very short break. We'll be back. Interact with us on our social media pages. I'd like to know what you think of today's discussion. Comment on our Facebook page and YouTube is CAC TV Kenya. Do not move a muscle. We'll be back in a few.
Pay for your tithes and offerings, PAP, using Family Bank's USSD solution for church collection, Kanisa PAP. All you have to do is register and pay. To register, dial code *325 *5#. Accept the terms and conditions. Enter your first and second name. Then your church's 4-digit code and church name. Confirm your registration and you're ready to contribute. To contribute, dial *325 *5#. Select your type of offering. Enter the amount you want to contribute. Once done, confirm the amount. You'll get an M-Pesa PIN prompt. Enter your PIN and you're done. You will receive an SMS confirmation from Family Bank. Isn't that easy? Try Kanisa PAP today.
When something attains 40, it's fullness.
40, biblically, is the end of a season. Anytime you look back to move forward.
What it meant to be a minister in those days.
They could not understand why I even wanted to be a minister.
First, they will look at you and, with that look, like, will she really be able to perform?
Truly, God has called you. He will empower you.
No Jesu areho rogedo neruega.
Wow, the future is bright.
Your name is there. You are just but a flower girl in the game.
We've seen internationally
moderators who are women, you know, bishops at very high levels.
I thank God that I was able to impact so many lives.
So in a big way, I salute those who have rested in the Lord.
All right, welcome back, and thank you so much for keeping it right here. Such a wholesome discussion we're having on tonight's episode on when and how to have, you know, that sexual talk with your children, which can be a very tricky situation to handle because you don't know whether you're telling them too much or too little. And I'd like to ask this, Prof. If a child comes to you and asks you a question and you dismiss them or lie to them, does that break a bond? Like, do they lose trust in you, meaning that if they have another question, they won't come to you, or it's okay, you can lie to them, and then maybe once you have the courage, now approach the issue and tell them correctly?
Unfortunately, when children are very small, they are not able to tell when they are getting lied to.
Okay.
You give an example of telling a child that they were bought from a supermarket, or they came from a tree, they fell down like mangoes do, or they were bought from a hospital, or whatever other answer that you can give a child. And a child is going to believe that children are bought from the supermarket. That may not break the bond, because the child does not know. But the child will come to mistrust you when they are much bigger, when they can understand that the information they were given was not correct. And therefore, there is one thing that we are doing to the child. We are being dishonest with the child, and we know it. And we don't know what to do, because maybe even for you as a parent, your parents didn't teach you on sex education and sexuality. And this may be the reason as to why you're feeling incapacitated. But you need to desire to do different. One thing that happens when we do not provide that information and that education and that training to the children developmentally, we call it progressive exposure. What that does to a child is that you're not able to mitigate for curiosity.
Okay.
Lefred has talked about this child whose penis is getting erect. Now, from there on, the penis is the one that is going to be dictating terms to the child. Instead of the other way around, the child dictating terms to the penis. Because now you're not in control of your own body. And progressive exposure helps children to be in control of what they think and what they feel, and possibly even the sensations that they are having, they can understand them. That actually mitigates for that curiosity. When curiosity is left unbridled, what happens is that it is the one that is going to go on an adventure. And when it goes on an adventure, you can be made to do anything. So that information does two things: that it mitigates for that curiosity, so that curiosity is not the one that is going to be leading the way. But reasoning and rationality is the one that is going to be leading the way. Number two is that information helps a person to be able to make decisions. When you do not have information, you're not able to make decisions. And therefore, children are left without knowing, how do I respond to this? When I am told I am very beautiful, I am 9 years, that my hips are growing, how do I respond to this? And the child is only going to say, you mean it? Really? So you can touch me, you know. But the child is not able to say, there is a boundary between me and you, and I'm not mature enough to get into that. That's what mommy told me, that I can have big buttocks, I am growing and it is okay, I am growing, but that does not give you permission to touch me. This is my body, and I will give permission to the person who is going to touch me. So I'll give them the legal permission to do that. And I'm going to give them the spiritual permission to do that. But not now. So the child is able to make decisions that take care of him or her.
Okay.
Good. Before we went on the break, and thank you. Before we went on the break, you said about the children growing up, and no matter how much you try to hide these things from them, the way God has created us is that naturally we start aligning ourselves in accordance to our sexuality, in a way. That's why you'll find children growing up in the community. The boys will be, riding tires. They will be riding tires, they will be doing the rough boy games. And the girls will be baking cakes za udongo. And the girls will be carrying babies. Wanatengeneza mtoto na shuka, wamefunga, wamebebisha mtoto kwa mgongo,
Na wanalialia.
Na wanalialia kama mtoto, And you did not sit the child down to teach them that girls take care of the babies. Boys do ABCD. Yet they are already doing it. Why? Because even where, like for example, you have a house boy, not a house girl, you will find the girls in that home are still the ones doing the girls utoto, and the boys will still be doing the boys utoto, because God, in His own imminent way, He made us to be inclined towards a certain direction. That's why even for the animals, the nurturing of the baby will be with the mother animal, not the father animal more. The protection. And nobody tells them that your role is to, the 3P we tell the men, you are the priest, you are the provider, you are the protector. Nobody teaches the animal the 3P we teach the men. Yet you will find naturally the male protecting the female. And that's because it's a natural thing. So for us parents, when we leave the children to grow through the autopilot, that's where the challenge comes in, because the child already knows she is a girl, he is a boy, but you're not telling them why they behave the way they behave. So they will now start to explore. Unbridled curiosity, the one we just mentioned, unbridled curiosity now leads to exploitive exploration. Because one wants to explore. Why am I being erect? So you want to explore. The way you will explore by exploiting someone else, because you're already very young. You see, there is a curiosity. Why am I waking up in the morning with an erection? No, it's because you're a boy. So what does the erection do? It means you need a woman, you need a girl to satisfy the erection. So now the erection guides the direction that the boy is going to take. Now it reads the direction, which is now the exploitive curiosity. Now he's going to explore. He's curious, why is this? He's told he needs a girl. Now he goes out to try and look for that girl to explore. As he does the exploration, he exploits a girl somewhere easily. And the girl again is also not helped. She has not been, nobody has told her what happens. So she will easily allow herself to be exploited. Because, right, it has been said, the girl grew up being told, you are a woman, nobody should touch you. Why? Then she goes out there and finds this boy who is very curious, with unbridled curiosity, who is saying, wow, you have good hips. Wacha tupime weight, you know? And she feels nice, you know. She feels very nice with ikipimo, you know, like, wow, you know, your breasts have grown so well, Can I touch them? And because of the, again, unbridled curiosity, the girl also wants to be touched. Now it goes to exploration. So they are touched, her nipples are touched. She feels, by the way, it's not bad after all. So now it feels very nice, And before she knows it, she's being exploited by the boy who is also going through exploration, because he was curious, he has gone to explore. She's being exploited. And on the other hand, maybe she's even exploiting the boy as well. So either of them, you're not saying the girls are the ones being exploited, even the boy is being exploited on this other area. That is why sex education and sexuality cannot be undervalued in our education system, and beginning right from our homes. Because the child will learn. Either you learn the right way, or get outside and get confused and run it the wrong way.
Rev, let me ask, is it biblical though to tell these things to a young child? I mean, are you not exposing them to an early life of promiscuity? Yes.
It is biblical. The Bible says clearly from the book of Joshua, you will teach these rules and these laws to your children. You will tie them on your forehead, on the shoulder. You will tie them to your children. So it's biblical to teach your children. You'll pass down these things to your children. Even in Psalms 127 says, children are heritage. So they are a heritage. They carry what has been given to them by the parents. So, by the way, when you don't do it, you are negating your biblical responsibility and duties as a parent. Yes.
So it's not vice versa. You're actually required to do it.
You are required to do it. Not doing it does not make you a good Christian. And you see, the problem is where we began.
Yeah.
We have grown up being told sex is immorality. Sex in tabia mbaya.
It's bad.
It's bad. You don't even talk about it. So if you had someone say, wachana huyo msichana ana tabia mbaya, you don't think her as stealing or killing, you think of her as sleeping around. Yet tabia mbaya does not mean sleeping around. If you hear someone say, Nani, Rev, he is so immoral, you don't think of him as the abusing or killing, you only think of him as sleeping around with women. So there is a way sex and sexuality has been demonized in our growing up.
That's true.
And one thinks they are more spiritual by not talking about sex and not mentioning it. I remember I was, not a long time ago, I was in a church, called Bahati. I was telling people, if there's one thing that you should thank God for, is your ability to be a woman or a man. When you wake up in the morning and you can have that erection, one of the things you should kneel down and tell God, God, I thank you for my sexuality. Because it is a God-given gift. And no matter how holy or spiritual you are a product of sex. Somebody enjoyed it. That's why you were born.
Yeah.
So even those that walk in the sanctuary with their robes, very holy, and even a minister lifting up hands, may the peace of God be with you, and looking like he has just come from heaven. It is because somebody made love. That's why that man or woman was born. So we should not demonize it and to cause a kuyongelea. When we don't talk about it is when we negate our biblical responsibility as parents and as community leaders.
And I think actually when we don't talk about it, then we give power to abusers, because then they easily manipulate and take advantage of children, who then are not able to go and tell mommy what is happening, because the abuser threatens them, and mommy has told them do. So they can't even express themselves,
Because you've been told it's a dudu.
Yeah.
And dudu ni kitu inadunga, inauma. So nobody touches your dudu. So the child goes wondering, kwani I have a dudu in my my body.
Wow. Parenting is such a responsibility.
It is.
I mean, who thought that, you not only need to provide and take kid to school and ensure they're dressed well, but you also need to teach them about sex and their sexuality as well. And I think there's something, I believe it's you, Prof, who mentioned earlier, that made me see how you are taught as a young child determines or impacts how much you believe and like yourself, you know. Because then if you're taught being a woman is a bad thing, don't let your hips grow too much, then you become embarrassed and shy, and you start thinking, oh my God, why am I like this? You know, you hate yourself and all that. So as much as we're talking about sex and sexuality, it not only revolves around that, but it also impacts your child in their confidence, you know, in their self-belief and self-love as well, and acceptance. You know, I think that's why we find people who say, I wish I was a boy, you know. They have it easy, or just from how they've seen you parenting either their brothers or other siblings. And even as we're talking about sex and matters sexuality, I'm from asking Rev if it's biblical, and he said yes. And Prof, allow me to ask you if then a lot of parents would adopt this and talk to their children from as little as they are, and answer all the questions they ask about sex and sexuality, about their body changes here and there. Do you think then we would raise a better generation in terms of, you know, a generation that understand their sexuality, understand their bodies and what happens, you know, understand matters sex well? Because the fear that comes with talking to kids about sex is that now they'll go out, now that they understand sex is for pleasure, now that they understand, maybe you've answered a question of how it happens, then they'll go out and try it, you know. Is that a risk that will happen? Or actually answering these questions help them make better decisions?
Yeah, I think so. And I was even loving when Leverett said, when you're looking at the clergy and they're lifting up their heads as if they have come from heaven. And I was wondering, Leverett, are you saying that the ones that are having sex are coming from hell? Yeah, so I think we would be living in a better society. Because the world of pedophiles are those adults who take advantage of small children. Where does a pedophile come from? What is it that the pedophile has gone through so that he doesn't want to approach a person of his own age so that they can talk matters sex? Meaning that this is a person who lacks confidence to negotiate over sex that is going to be more consensual. And therefore there is lack of self-confidence, there is low self-esteem, there is inferiority complex for this kind of a person, simply because they are lacked when this person was growing. That progressive education, that progressive exposure to who they are was not there. And that is why we are having now a damaged individual who is damaging other people. You know, the Bible says, train up a child in the way he should go, and even when he's going to be much older, he will not depart from that way. So the responsibility of community, and our African traditional communities used to be very intent in training girls and boys on their own sexuality and on their own gender. Because again, when we are talking about identity, gender identity and sexual identity are so intertwined with each other. And when we train children to understand their male, female, Reverend said, we need to enjoy being females, being males. But this, the person who is enjoying, is a person who has an orientation that they are women or they are men, and it is okay. And they can enjoy themselves being who they are. And then now they can be able to express themselves sexually as the genders that they are. So I think if good work is done, and good work can be done from the parents' point of view, from the school point of view, from community, that community does not take advantage of a child, but sees a child as a child and teaches and trains the child in the way he or she should go. When we were growing up, and you meet a neighbor along the way, and you're doing funny things like praying kati, that is a neighbor who could discipline you and tell you, you cannot do that, go to school. We are having a society that lacks responsibility to the children, and the responsibility is left to the two parents. That is why Lefred can tell us about that story of uncles and a baby nanny who is not taking responsibility of teaching children light. I imagine even if it was Lefred and me, maybe our children would have done that because the nanny is the one who is teaching the nanny, and we didn't have cameras when our children were growing up, or even if they were there, it was not the traditional thing to do. We have had situations where children sleeping on the same bed, a brother and a brother, and a brother is telling the brother, turn nicely so that I can have you from the back. You know? When will your mom know that? But because they are sleeping in the same bed, now you can see what is happening. We don't have to be innocent over some of these things. We need to open up our eyes and see it happens, it can happen, the ruin can come from there. And sometimes when you're doing your clinical interviews and you listen to those kind of tales, then this person is saying, you know what? I am a homosexual. I can't think of it differently because it started with my brother. So you can see where it is coming from. That we actually need to open our eyes and see settings and scenarios that can predispose our children to ruin and damage. Because you can talk very nicely as a parent, but brother and brother are sleeping together. And they are doing these things. So whatever you're training and teaching is getting turned upside down by the practice here. So when we open our eyes wide, we are able to see. Because sometimes parents will say, you know, I taught. And I did very good work in teaching. I was diligent in my teaching. But there are some things that you closed your eyes to, and these are the results of your eyes being closed.
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing story, it's an amazing talk, but it's good always to remember, and I want to reiterate again, that the first place to do the education of your child sexually, I mean morally, character formation, everything, it must start from the home. Before it goes to the teachers, before it goes to the community, before it goes to the religious organizations. But I would say the community, for me, has completely left its role in matters nurturing our children. The way we used, like Prof said, like a neighbor would discipline you. Today, no neighbor touches anybody's child. The community educators, the community way of bringing up children is almost gone. Now we are left with the family, and that's why the families must now be more aware into the fact that if I don't do it, no one else will. You know, that be deliberate on knowing that if I don't take responsibility for my children, no one else will do. You can sit around lamenting the other parent and saying, you know, during our days, it is true, it was your days, they are gone. Now these are new days where no neighbor touches your child. Find your kid misbehaving and all they do is walk by the side and let your baby be. So you need to know that the responsibility begins with you. The other thing is that I have seen religious organizations and especially the church, let me use the church because of I've seen the church take a very big role in matters teaching children matters sexuality and character formation. And I know this is a Christian TV, and I really want to encourage you, my viewer, do not negate the part of the church in your life.
Okay.
Research has shown 72%, this was done somewhere in the US, 72% of the children whose parents both go to church become successful in life. Where only the father does, it was 55%. I hope I can remember well. Where only the mother goes, I think it was 15%. The percentage was very low. Because the child gets to a certain age, they start identifying with the rebelliousness of the father. So you tell the child, let's go for the Sunday school, say, theater dadia melala, wacha kunisumbua. But the father, because he's the head of the family, as the Bible says, in Ephesians, he's the head of the family, there's a way when the father takes up the role and says this is the way, like the entire family tends to follow that direction. But when the father leaves his role, challenges come in. And they said where none of the parents ever goes to church, only 6% of their children become, successful. Meaning, the church has such a key role in nurturing the behaviors of our children. You will hear even the community, even the politicians, when things go haywire, they will always say, na kanisa iombe. Kanisa imeacha kuomba. Kanisa waombe watu. We have heard that saying.
That's true.
We have heard that a lot. Kanisa iombe sana kuwe na amani. Hii elections kuwe na amani. Hii hakuna watu wameenda kanisa iombe. You have heard that. Like now, because of the fuel going up, the economic situation, bei ya unga kila kitu imekuwa kali. Nasema, na kanisa iombe sana. Kanisa iombe sana, watu wamekuwa na depression. Because the things like the heart attack and the clot are on the rise. And you'll hear, kanisa iombe. Meaning, church is a very important part in the society. And the community does not realize, or even the nation, even the politician, the government doesn't realize the importance of the church until things go bad. You remember wakati kulikuwa na migomo. This time there were fires all over in schools. Turudishe chaplains kwa shule, kanisa iombe watoto wetu, kanisa isaidie watoto. When the fires go down in schools and migomo hakuna, no one talks about the church until when things go wrong. Meaning, the church has such an important part to play. Parents, it does not matter how endowed you are financially. Please take your child to church. It's a very important place for your child to learn. Many parents, when we get endowed financially, we have good TVs. The children can sit in the house and watch the cartoon. The children can sit in the house and do the PlayStation, the PS station in the house. The child has Netflix. They can watch all the programs instead of going to church, especially when it is very cold. They can sit in the church. But I'm telling you, the repercussions will be later in life. Take that child to church.
Okay. Maybe last question I have for you, Prof. I wouldn't want to end today's program without asking briefly, though, because time is not on our side. Parents bathe their babies when they're young. Is there an impact when, let's say, the father is the one bathing the girl child? Should they get to an age where now he no longer does it and it's only the mother or the nanny, in this case, if she's female, who does that? Or it's okay, any parent can bathe any child because then they understand that this is my parent, this is my mother, this is my father?
I think it's a matter of boundaries and a matter of a child feeling secure with the person who is doing it. And when they get bigger, they will start bathing themselves unless a child is having disabilities or inabilities that is making the child not to. By the time they are 7 years, they are actually bathing themselves. And the parents are doing the bathing when the children are, say, up to 3 years. From there on, the children should be trained to do that for themselves. And so daddy can do it when the child is small. And within our societies, we say, why is daddy bathing a girl child? But he is the father of this child. And we know situations where fathers have been bathing their own children. And as long as there is that teaching and the boundaries are well kept, and we know this father is a responsible father to his own children, there is nothing wrong about a father bathing a girl child.
Okay.
It is community that puts meaning to what the father is doing, and that meaning is put in the negative direction, not to the positive, that dad is doing very well. Because girls who are taken care by their fathers, even when they get married later, they know they can be taken care of in a positive way, just the same way daddy did it for them.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. Rev, you want to have an input?
I just want to have an input and say,
Kidogo. Yeah.
I bathed, I'm and my wife are blessed with one daughter and two sons, and the daughter is the firstborn. I bathed our daughter up to the age of 6 years. And when the baby was small, that child, whenever she was wet and she needed her diapers changed, and we were together, me and the mother, the child would run to me to do the changing, not to the mother.
Okay.
Up to the age of about 6 years, I used to bathe my baby. I changed the diapers when she was young, 1 and 1.5 years. I did her diapers. And those days it was no diapers, it was nappy.
Yeah.
It was the nappies,
Yeah.
it was not diapers, it was nappies those days. I did up to the age of 6 years. That's when it is actually the mother who said, now, Mercy, daddy will not be bathing you again. And like, why? That's when like now the sex education began. You're a girl, and she was like, I knew. I still remember the argument because she used to say, Mommy, I know I'm daddy, I'm a girl, and they would be like, no man should be touching you. I know. I have never allowed anyone to touch me. So she could not even understand at that age, why is daddy not bathing me? Until we had to walk that journey. So I'm just affirming that daddy will bathing your baby, it's okay.
It's okay.
That child now is through the university. We are still very close because the bond grew up, and she's still close to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
so I bathed her to
Actually,
6
a
years.
photocopy.
Yeah. All right, thank you for sharing that with us. I think it was well prof for today. To you, dear viewer, many thanks for joining us and interacting with us on our comment section. Do share this link if you're following up on our social media pages, Facebook and YouTube, KAK TV Kenya. Till next time, my name is Faith Kaulu. Goodbye.